Welcome everybody to a look at an Indicator limited edition release that came out in 2021, and it is 1978's Great Lady Down. So this is a film directed by David Green. We've looked at a film of his before in the past, the film The Strange Affair, which was a Vinegar Syndrome release from last year, I believe. And this is a submarine disaster film, clocking in at 111 minutes long. Stars the likes of Charlton Heston, who I've seen in 23 other films. Favourites being the likes of Touch of Evil, Soylent Green, 55 Days at Peking, and Dark City. Also stars David Carradine, who was I've seen in 15 other films. Favourites would be the likes of the Kill Bill films, The Long Riders, and Death Race 2000. Also stars Stacey Keach, who we've talked about already in the past, as we reviewed Road Games earlier this year. But yeah, seen in 10 other films from him. And stars also Ned Beatty, who I've seen in 18 other films, with favourites being the likes of Restless Natives and Mikey and Nikki. So, yeah, the USS Neptune, a nuclear submarine, is sunk off the coast of Connecticut after a collision with a Norwegian cargo ship. The Navy must attempt a potentially dangerous rescue in the hope of saving the lives of the crew. So, this is one of the many disaster films from the 70s, and as per usual for a film like this, the cast is solid, the disaster is easily avoidable, and many people are killed. But it is at least a bit more of a unique setting than is usual for these kind of films, which are generally set in like a city, and there's usually a natural disaster that is taking place, like an earthquake. Um, Although there obviously have been some that have set at sea, like the Poseidon Adventure. Airport 77, I guess, is the only one that is really properly comparable to this, given that is also about a Boeing 747 that sinks to a shallow depth underwater, shallow enough to, not crush the plane under pressure, but not shallow enough for people to get out of. So that's the only really comparable effort to this one. But that said, despite the similarities between this and other disaster films from the same period, and the fact that it has its predictable moments, it is engrossing and entertaining despite its flaws. It also has a good score, some tense moments, a few nice character interactions, and though the practical effects are obvious in terms of their execution, they are obviously miniatures, there's no getting away from that, they are nonetheless endearing. So, yeah, by no means my favourite disaster film from this period, but it does still get a solid 3 out of 5. Not awful, but by no means my favourite from the period, which still would be the likes of the Poseidon Adventure, Towering Inferno, and the first two airport films, I guess you could say as well. So yeah, but still, we get the film disc there. So we get that artwork on the standard side, and then we get reversible sleeve artwork as well. Get it out. There we go. Not sure if that's the original or not, um, but still, it's a pretty good one. Really does get across what is going to happen in the film. We also get a booklet with this release as well. Pretty sure that's a shot from the film with Charlton Heston, and then the director and Charlton Heston on set. And inside the book, we've got cast and crew, and then we've got In Deep Water by Omar Ahmed from 2021. And as it says here, the 70s was the heyday of the all-star disaster film, and there was a constant scramble to reinvent the genre to prevent it from becoming stale and formulaic. And yeah, this definitely, like I said, is more unique. Charlton Heston wasn't exactly unfamiliar with the disaster genre. I believe he was in Skyjacked, which is somewhat similar to Airport. You've also got an interview with Charlton Heston in this as well, which is pretty in depth, to be honest. Then you got a critical response. So Richard Combs from the monthly film Bulletin enjoyed the scene in which a crew watched a film, but found it otherwise in thrall to military hardware. So yeah, I don't think it was well received at the time. I certainly don't think it was a massive box office success. Certainly not like the like several other disaster films from the period, Towering Inferno, Poseidon Adventure, and Earthquake as well. Were all massive successes. I think all of them made 100 million or more worldwide. But yeah, it also has about the presentation in the reverse. So Universal's HD remaster was the source of this indicator edition. The film's original mono audio was remastered at the same time. Yeah, it looks and sounds perfectly fine. Obviously, it's not going to be the best because it is a studio restoration and not a label restoration, which usually go a bit more in depth, but still, it looks and sounds perfectly fine. You've also got audio commentary with film historian Peter Tongate from 2021. You got the Guardian interview with Charlton Heston from 1985. That clocks in at 75 minutes long, so that's an archival audio recording of the great actor in conversation with Quentin Falk at the National Film Theatre in London. And then you got Ladies Man from 2021. That's a 12-minute interview with actor Stacey Keach, who recalls his role as a dashing captain leading the rescue. And then you got The Changing Tide. That's from 2021. That's an 8-minute interview with character actor Stephen McHattie, who remembers working with a great team. And then you got Plumbing the Depths, also from 2021. That clocks in at 41 minutes long. That's film historian and former Navy officer Alan K. Rode on the US Navy submarine rescue program, which was a real thing. In fact, it's actually ends. Well, it has, should I say, a ship that is actually a rescue ship at the time. Oh, forgetting it now. It's USS something or other. It slips my mind, but it is a real ship that is used in real life, as or was used in real life, as well as in the film. You've also got the original theatrical trailer, TV spot, radio spots, image gallery, and English subtitles for the deaf or hard of hearing. So this was a limited edition of 3,000 copies. So very much that any of these are still available. Although Indicator have done or did do a few days ago a recent out of print sale, or I should say sale. They were still full price, but recent out of print yeah, kind of promotion for films that they somehow found more limited edition versions of. Either probably you know, in-store release, in-store films that were in store that were like on display and display versions. So might not be in the best condition, or maybe they just found some in the warehouse or something over. I'm not sure where they found them, but there were several there, and I did buy a couple of my own. So hopefully we'll see them at some point. But nonetheless, Grey Lady Down is a perfectly solid disaster film. Not the best of the genre, but far from the worst. You know, the likes of Beyond the Poseidon Adventure, which is pretty dreadful, and as well as When Time Ran Out, which pretty much killed off the genre in 1980, I think that was. So, yeah, overall, a pretty good film, and yeah, one that I do recommend seeing if you are into the disaster genre from the 70s. I know a lot of people aren't. They very rarely go beyond the mainstay ones of those in that genre, but to be honest, I think there's several in that genre outside of the main ones that are, yeah, still well worth seeing, even if they aren't perfect. So yeah, but nonetheless, thank you for watching. If you have seen Grey Lady Down, I'd like to hear your thoughts on it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.